Reactive abuse, when victims are manipulated into appearing as abusers. Have you ever felt like you're losing your mind, reacting in ways that seem completely out of character? What if I told you that your reaction might be exactly what your abuser wants? This video will shed light on a manipulative tactic called reactive abuse, where abusers provoke victims into reacting, then use that reaction to paint themselves as the victim. Reactive abuse is a calculated strategy employed by abusers, often those with narcissistic tendencies, to deflect blame and maintain control. It's a cruel game where the abuser pushes the victim to their breaking point. The core of reactive abuse lies in the abuser's ability to provoke a reaction from the victim after a sustained period of abuse. This reaction, often an outburst of anger or frustration, is then twisted and used against the victim. The abuser then exploits this reaction, carefully crafting a narrative that portrays themselves as the innocent party, the one being abused. This manipulation is designed to confuse the victim and those around them. The cycle of reactive abuse begins long before the explosive reaction. It starts with a series of subtle yet damaging behaviors designed to erode the victim's sense of self and reality. Gaslighting is a common tactic, where the abuser manipulates the victim's perception of reality, making them question their own sanity. "That never happened," or "you're imagining things" are phrases often used. Constant criticism, no matter how small, chips away at the victim's self-esteem, leaving them feeling worthless and inadequate. Nothing they do is ever good enough. Manipulation is another key element, where the abuser controls the victim's actions and emotions through guilt, threats, or other coercive tactics. They dictate the terms of the relationship. The silent treatment, withholding affection and communication as punishment, is a form of emotional abuse that leaves the victim feeling isolated and desperate for connection. It's a power play. Devaluation is the process of diminishing the victim's worth, making them feel insignificant and unloved. This can involve insults, belittling comments, or dismissive behavior. Other forms of abuse, whether psychological, emotional, or even physical, contribute to the overall toxic environment. These behaviors create a climate of fear and uncertainty. In the early stages of the abuse, the victim often tries to appease the abuser, hoping to avoid conflict and maintain peace. They walk on eggshells, constantly monitoring their behavior. Walking on eggshells becomes a way of life, where the victim is overly cautious to avoid triggering the abuser's anger or disapproval. This constant vigilance is exhausting. Suppression of their own needs and emotions becomes a survival mechanism. The victim learns to prioritize the abuser's feelings above their own, sacrificing their own well-being. The victim can only endure so much. Eventually, the constant abuse takes its toll, leading to a breaking point where they can no longer suppress their emotions. Prolonged exposure to abuse leads to chronic stress and anxiety, leaving the victim feeling constantly on edge. Their nervous system is in a state of hyperarousal. The victim experiences a profound feeling of helplessness, trapped in a cycle of abuse with no apparent escape. They feel powerless to change their situation. The reactive outburst can manifest in various ways, such as yelling, crying, throwing objects, or retaliating with words. It's an explosion of pent-up emotions. This outburst is driven by accumulated pain, frustration, and exhaustion. It's not a sign of inherent aggression, but a desperate plea for relief. It's a desperate attempt to defend themselves or express pent-up emotions that have been suppressed for too long. The victim is finally fighting back, even if it's in a way they later regret. This is where the abuser's manipulation reaches its peak. They seize upon the victim's reaction, twisting it to fit their narrative and further control the situation. The abuser exaggerates the victim's reaction, making it seem far more extreme than it actually was. They blow things out of proportion to create a false impression. They focus solely on the outburst, ignoring the history of abuse that led to it. The context is completely disregarded, and the victim's reaction is presented as an isolated incident. The abuser labels the victim as crazy, unstable, violent, or even abusive. These labels are designed to discredit the victim and justify the abuser's behavior. The abuser uses this carefully constructed narrative to isolate the victim from their support systems. They turn friends and family against the victim, leaving them feeling alone and vulnerable. They present themselves as the long-suffering partner, enduring the victim's unacceptable behavior. This earns them sympathy and reinforces their position of power. The consequences of reactive abuse are devastating, leaving the victim feeling confused, ashamed, and questioning their own sanity. The emotional and psychological damage can be profound. The victim experiences intense guilt and shame for their reaction, even though it was provoked by the abuser. They internalize the abuser's narrative and blame themselves. Confusion and self-doubt become pervasive, making it difficult for the victim to trust their own judgment. They question their own sanity and reality. Erosion of self-worth is a common consequence, leaving the victim feeling worthless and unlovable. They lose sight of their own value and potential. Questioning their own sanity and reality is a hallmark of reactive abuse. The gaslighting and manipulation make it difficult for the victim to distinguish between what's real and what's not. The victim may begin to believe the abuser's narrative, further entrenching them in the cycle of abuse. They start to see themselves as the problem. Fear of leaving the relationship becomes overwhelming as the victim believes they are incapable of surviving on their own. The abuser has successfully undermined their confidence. The victim develops a deep-seated belief that they are the problem, making it even harder to break free from the abusive relationship. They feel trapped and hopeless. Recognizing reactive abuse is the first step towards breaking free from the cycle. Understanding the dynamics of abuse is crucial for reclaiming your life and healing. Recognizing reactive abuse is crucial for understanding the dynamics of abuse and validating your own experiences. It's the first step towards healing and recovery. Understanding that the reaction is a direct result of the abuser's actions is essential. You are not inherently flawed or abusive, you were pushed to your breaking point. Beginning the process of healing and escaping the cycle requires courage and support. It's a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. It's time to prioritize your well-being and break free from the manipulative tactics of your abuser. You deserve to live a life free from fear and control. Conclusion and call to action. You are not alone. Reactive abuse is a complex and insidious form of manipulation, but understanding it is the first step towards reclaiming your power. If you recognize these patterns in your relationship, please reach out for help. Contact a domestic violence hotline, talk to a trusted friend or family member, or seek professional therapy. Your safety and well-being are paramount. Don't let the abuser continue to control your narrative. Take back your life and begin your journey towards healing and freedom. You are stronger than you think, and you deserve a life filled with respect, love, and genuine connection. Start today.